Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, where you get multifamily investing made real. Learn from top players in the real estate investment world as they share their secrets with you and discover proven strategies on apartment investing that actually work. To learn more about Wheelbarrow Profits, visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. Now to your hosts, Jake and Gino.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good. A little bit of internet problems, but other than that, rock and rolling today, my friend.
Well, good. Rocking and rolling. And I just want to say, guys, I was in Nashville this weekend checking out the site for a 2018 live event, and it is in a great location. So if you guys want to do a little work hard, play hard, bring the fam, enjoy it. We're right down there on Broadway next to all the goodies. So it's going to be a good time. Anywho, today's guest is Dana Dunford. Dana is the CEO of Hemlane, a technology-enabled property management platform. She is a strong advocate for purchasing properties anywhere, as the best investments are not typically found in your backyard. She supports real estate investors in setting up the most intelligent process to manage rentals from a distance while connecting them with local professionals. So without further ado, Dana, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Jake, for having me.
Hey, tell us a little bit about your background. I know we were speaking a little bit before the show. You said you got a family background in real estate. You have a tech background, and you came to start this property management software company. Just tell us a little bit about that and how you got started.
Yes. So like most people, I think when you get into real estate investment, a lot of it comes through a referral. And I was working at Apple at the time, and that referral for me was my brother-in-law, Julian. And so he was already investing in rental properties, saw the value that, got involved in it myself with him with the management side, seeing, hey, we can use these dollars elsewhere. We can manage them and effectively use brokers on the ground to support us with that. And so ended up getting into real estate by accident in that sense. And then, like many people in the industry, realizing my job at Apple was great, but technology is transforming all sorts of different industries in a beneficial way, and seeing how I could bring that to better connect property managers with real estate investors. Today, what you see is that a lot of people self-manage, and they're not using the support out there. And there are a lot of experts with property management backgrounds who can help them improve their portfolio's operations. And I saw a huge opportunity to bring the market closer together with both the professionals who are in the industry with the operations and those real estate investors who are investing in the properties.
So tell me, why do you think people hate property management?
I think you just cut out a little bit, Gino, there, but I think you asked what people's thoughts are on property management.
Yeah, why do you think they hate it? Why do you think they hear property management and all of a sudden they say to themselves, that's not for me?
I think when you're a real estate investor or you're a property manager, I've heard from many property managers that they needed therapy afterwards. You are the first to get blamed and the last to get credit. And how I relate it is when I used to play soccer, I was the defense, always the forwards were getting all of the credit. And when you're working in an operational role, if something goes wrong, you're the first to get blamed. Meanwhile, when you are a property manager, you actually have to be incredibly smart and really good at basically a jack of all trades for everything. You have to understand accounting, you have to understand maintenance, and you also have to understand sales for the leasing process. And then you have to have a really good organizational process where every day you make sure, where are my lease renewals, who's paid rent, etc. And so when you have to do so many different things, you find yourself almost saying, wow, I really have to every day change my head to a different role. And I think for some people that can be mentally exhausting. Even, I feel it, everyone feels that. And so that's something that I've really bonded with property managers on, in the sense of saying, wow, you guys are incredible. The amount that you do across so many different faucets.
You know, the funny thing is, you were talking about the challenges. Ken McElroy was on the show, and he was talking about they get fired if they do good because the property ends up selling, or if they're not doing their job well, they end up getting fired for non-performance. So it's the tough job, and it's a tough role to be in. So, you know, big shout out to the property managers. I think it's very challenging, and we definitely love it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think for any real estate investor on here after this, please reach out to your property manager and tell them thank you.
Yes, no doubt.
Typically when things are going well, you just kind of expect it. And when things go wrong, if you have a good property manager, a lot of times it's, you know, it's a 1% chance you had this bad tenant that somehow missed the screening process or something like that. And so it's definitely one of those fields out there that deserves a lot of credit.
So what are some of the big lessons you've learned from investors about property management?
The biggest lesson I've learned from investors, and then I can talk also about property managers, what I've learned from investors, I've realized that they actually want to be a bit hands-on with their property management.
Mm-hmm.
There are stats out there anywhere, you'll hear different stats, but 70 to 80% of, you know, smaller portfolios are self-managed. And that's based on where you get those stats from. But a lot of people want to self-manage, but then they get into it and they just complain about it for the reasons we just outlined. And so what I've learned really from investors is transparency is key. And so whether you're a property manager or you're an investor looking at a property manager, you actually want to know about everything. One of my biggest insights is, you know, being part of the role of saying, we have properties out there and we're looking at the performance of them. I like to know, how many tenant leads did I have in? How many days are they on the market? All of these different stats, and be able to drill down into them without really having much of the day-to-day work, but that data will tell me how good is the performance of the properties. On the property management side, hands down, I've learned from managers, the most costly expense is a bad tenant. You get a bad tenant in your rental properties, and it costs you everything. It's emotionally draining, and it's also financially draining.
So you have here talking about the tenant. What type of processes do you use to get a qualified, quote unquote, good tenant?
Yeah, that's great. It's going to change. It's going to vary a little bit based on your class of property. But for a typical, you know, a B class property, potentially, you know, high C, low B property, which is typically where I specialize, the first thing is just advertising. Zillow owns Trulia and Top Pads, and they basically run that market in the sense what you're seeing is every single year, Craigslist is losing share in the property listing space of rental properties, and Zillow is slowly taking over more. So if you look at search engine optimization and how many clicks do they have under rentals, you'll see the Zillow team is taking over that. I call it Craig's dying list, because that's going to happen just like Airbnb did it in the short term. And so what the study showed was that tenants look on at least 2 different websites for their rental property. You don't know what those 2 are. It may be Craigslist and Zillow, but it may be Craigslist and PadMapper, or Craigslist and Zumper, or Craigslist and Apartment List. And so just the first step in finding quality tenants is making sure you have every tenant out there knowing your property's there. So that is advertising your property with a click of a button, so syndicate, and list it on everything. That way you can guarantee they've only looked at 2 websites, but I guarantee my listing is on one of those 2 websites. Mm-hmm. From there, you have your funnel, and you can be, as a property manager or leasing agent, very efficient about that. Pre-screening questions are crucial. You know, do my credit requirements, my income qualifications, do they have pets or not? I talk about pets a lot. I'm actually a huge fan of having them in rental properties. But you would go through that and then do the showings, and then as quickly as possible get an application in, and then the screening. And so the process, The process should be very smooth, very consistent, and very objective. But I see a lot of people will list their property on one website and they don't understand, is it my price that's an issue? Or is it my advertising? Well, there are a couple of ways to quickly figure that out. Make sure you've advertised it everywhere, and then you know it's a pricing issue. Or look at your qualifications. Here in San Francisco, where I am, 50% of tenants have pets. But when I look at the market and I just look at the number of listings allowing for pets, it's less than 20%. And so you're taking out 50% of the market right there by not allowing pets in the rental property. And that may be something that gives you a huge advantage to keep that higher price. And so there are a lot of factors like that should be part of the streamlined process, and really understanding your geography, the tenants there, what are those qualifications. And then once you have all of that in a checkbox, you should just make sure that is very consistent to make sure you're following fair housing.
So I know you mentioned the 50% of the renters having pets. Is that the sole reason that you like it for rentals, or is there something else?
I think there are a couple of reasons for it. So one, I think, yes, the number of tenants having pets, we see that increasing in cities, in tier 1 cities. I'm not sure about other cities, I'd have to check. But I do see the number of folks having pets who are renting is increasing. And part of that reason, I think, is a lot of people are delaying having kids or home ownership, and they have a pet as their responsibility. So not only is it the quantity of tenants, but what you'll see, and I think you guys will crack up at some of those emotional support animals that are out there, where someone says
we're getting it now, and I'm like, that's bullshit. There's no way. Like, people are throwing it out there. They think they're going to get denied, right? So everyone's coming in. Like, I see a lot of our marketing emails that come in, and we're like literally getting flooded with it's for emotional. We're super pet friendly.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Our portfolio is in Knoxville. It's a huge pet friendly town. I mean, you go into restaurants, they got pets everywhere. It's just the way it is. And people are like so freaked out you're going to get denied. They're like putting like, these big like asterisks up, for these like, my doctor gave it to me, it's okay kind of thing. So anyways, carry on.
Even, I'll give you a perfect example in the short-term space. I had one of my Airbnbs of my own, I had someone book it and I said, no pets in it. And then her profile photo on Airbnb is of a dog. And so I told my husband, we were over in Kenya traveling. I told my husband, I said, you know what? She's going to bring her dog anyways. We should just and she's said she didn't have any pets when she booked it. She saw there was no pets. I said, let's just respond and tell her that there's $100 fee per night for pets. And I tell her that, and she responds, and can you believe that? $100. She responds, oh, great. Yep, I'm bringing my dog and I'm happy to pay that. And so I think if they're going to try to get around it anyways, and they're going to tell you it's an emotional support animal, and they're going to go online and they're going to get one of those just, free things, you're going to have so much administrative efforts just trying to verify whether it really is a support animal from a reputable doctor. And there are now services out there trying to help with that. I know the government's trying to crack down on that. But instead, just say you have pets and offer another $25 per month in pet rent, and just increase the rent amount by that additional $25. So I've seen a lot of real estate investors very successful by just doing that and increasing their monthly rent to have the pets in there. And then it's very transparent. You put it in your ad. Your tenants aren't lying to you, which makes you feel a lot better. And you kind of feel like it's a win-win. And so I'm more of a fan from more of the cash flow perspective of it. But I found that tenants will try to get around it if they like your place anyways. And so it is a good kind of policy to allow it with restrictions, right? If there's additional damage, you can increase the security deposit. Don't call it a pet deposit. Just increase your security deposit by that amount if they have pets in. And I found that tenants are much more willing to pay that if it's transparent and upfront.
What kind of premiums are you seeing? You mentioned $25 a month. You mentioned a deposit. What are you seeing across the board?
Yeah, it depends on the market. So in tier 1 cities, and by tier 1 cities, I'm talking about cities like San Francisco and New York, they are actually charging $55 a month per pet. I mean, an insane amount, and that's per pet. And on top of that, from a security deposit perspective, $1,000 a month, or sorry, $1,000 additional in the security deposit.
Wow.
Across the board, I would say most places you will see $25 per pet, or you'll see, and it's somewhere between like $20 to $35, not more than that in most markets. And then you'll see from the security deposit, and we pull data to kind of see what's going on. With the security deposit, we typically see investors bifurcate between the two. They either charge and increase the security deposit or just charge pet rent. They not a lot do both that we've seen, although it's starting that trend. I see additional $250 to $500 for the pet deposit.
Gino, what is this grin for?
I'm just thinking, guys. I have 6 kids, right? If they charge me per kid to rent, I'd be in the poorhouse, right? Because 6, another $1,000.
We're talking pets here. We're not. These are
I know, but this is
Gino.
my mind. $6,000 for security deposit for the kids, and another $500 a month for the rent. I'm like, dude.
I know.
And
I think you'd have a fair housing violation if you do that with kids.
Yeah, well, you never know what's going to happen. Let me tell you something. Everything's transitioning over because now down here in Florida, you got pets in strollers right now. You got guys carrying these stupid baby things, and they're putting the dogs in them. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what is going on? And then you have these baby boomers who are retiring, who don't have anything, and they're just like worshiping these pets. I'm thinking to myself, these people are spending more on their pets than they would on their children. The only thing that's missing is the college education and maybe the marriage, but everything else is up to par. It's unbelievable what people spend on pets. So another $20, $25. I
know, it's like their Halloween costumes. Halloween costumes are like $30 million a year, something that people spend on their pet
It's insane.
Halloween costumes. It's absolutely insane. So it is something. And then one other point to that, I do see pet owners. They tend to not want to move a lot once the pet enjoys the place and gets used to it. So they'll stay in your place for longer. I don't have a lot of data and stuff on that, but I do see it's kind of like children. You have children, you don't want to move your children. These people, they treat their pets like their children. It's like, oh, it's going to be so emotional for, my dog to have to move. And so I'm going to stay. And that helps you because you have reduced vacancy from that perspective. So a lot of points with that. But still, there are some people who are really adamant about saying no pets, and everyone has their differences, but I'm definitely for them.
I can only imagine having this conversation with my dad. That's all I'm thinking myself right now.
I would be having this conversation with my dad.
Moving on.
Wow. What I wanted to ask you a question about was managing remotely. I mean, how do you deal with a prospective investor who's dealing and has to manage remotely? What would you say to him?
Yes, well, and so one of the things I would say is you can't 100% manage remotely. You physically need someone at the property. I'm in Silicon Valley, and it's unbelievable how many companies are coming out saying that they're going to have robots show the property to a tenant. I just can't see it. I can't see a robot at this stage. Maybe ask me again in 10 years. Literally opening the door. I mean, I don't even understand how the robot gets up the stairs. I'm still unclear about all of that. I don't know how it answers the questions. Every rental is different. But I would say that you can still control the asset. It's sort of like an asset manager for a larger portfolio. Mm-hmm. For people like you, Gino, who have these larger portfolios, you have an asset manager who's consolidating everything. When you're an owner and you're looking to purchase, now is the time with technology where you can suddenly say, I don't need to just invest in my backyard. Industry here might be great, but if I look at employment and growth rates and industry growth in another city, it might be a lot better than here. Why am I just going to restrict myself here? It would be kind of like if I said, Gino, you can only invest in companies in your city. You can't do this open stock market and invest in companies across the US. It's the same thing with real estate. And so what I would say is you still need someone on the ground, but with technology, I mean, rent collection, doing the background checks, doing the leases remotely, there are so many things where you can still hold that liability under your LLC and do it behind your computer, and then have a licensed agent on the ground in a really good handy who you like and trust, because that's crucial. Your maintenance team is unbelievably valuable for you. But having someone there that you trust to support you, while you still have that control, where, you know, rent is going directly to your bank account. It's not sitting in some trust account and then being dispersed later. There's a lot of ways now for investors to invest out of state and out of their particular region. And I would just say, when you do look at investments, I start with macro trends and say, is it a good time to invest? Then go down to cities and say, what are the cities that are having growth, and am I too late to get into this city? And then from there, suddenly going into that city and say, where are good locations, I think, to invest, where I think that rates are going to go up. And I've talked to some incredible real estate investors, some really successful ones that have really actually creative strategies to do it, that now we're kind of implementing as well. I've been telling my family and stuff. So anyways, I would just say, you don't just have to look in your yard, you can look anywhere. And I think the larger investors, the ones like you guys who have huge portfolios, do that. But even if you're a small mom and pop shop, you can do the same thing.
We talked a little bit about data. What kind of data do you like to track, and what's really crucial to have a really successful investment?
Yeah. So first, I'll start just with the real estate investment in general, and then kind of go into property management. So real estate investment in general, I actually look at the trends at the macro level. So what's happening with unemployment, what's happening with house prices, what's happening with interest rates, looking at all of that in general. And then obviously cities doing something very similar with what growth rates look like there. From the property management side, there are a couple of things that I think are really important. One is reducing your vacancy. So having really low turnover. So understanding what are the days on the market, what are all of the properties around me, to the point of pet deposits and stuff like that. What is the data showing there? And for my particular area, what can I be charging for that? So constantly looking at your property and how do I make sure that it's under 30 days and my price is right. Then from there, on the management side, I look at lease turnovers. You know, how many people are renewing their leases? If I have people moving out every year, there's probably something wrong with the management or the building, right? That I need to question. Obviously, it's different. Single family, people stay for longer than in multifamily. You see a little bit higher turnover. But I track all of that. And so whenever someone says, you know, how can you increase your operations? Every single time I can look at every number. How many maintenance requests have been submitted? What was the response rate? How quickly were those closed? You know, where are my rents compared to market rents within other regions? If I have all of this data and information at a high level, then I can drill down into the details if any number looks wrong or off compared to comps that I have in the area, or just general operational targets that I have of saying, you know, I want to make sure every single property is never on the market for more than 30 days. Great, I have winter turnovers. That's an issue in an area where it's cold. Maybe I should get all 12 months leases that always turn over during the summertime. Those types of things you can do and set that up as part of your process.
Do you use virtual assistants in your business, and what do you think about them?
I don't. Well, I do when I have a process set up, but I'm not a fan of virtual assistants as much as I am of technology that has a standard process. A lot of times you hire a virtual assistant to do manual tasks, but in this day and age, you can have technology do that pretty quickly. I would say once you get larger, so once you have 50 plus, 100 plus units, having a virtual assistant or having a virtual accountant, you know, someone to help you with your properties makes a lot of sense. But my personal experience and success has been around saying, figure out how to do it myself. Let me figure out how to automate as much as I can. And then what can't be automated, put into a virtual admin, but teach them how to do that process. And so it's very set in stone and standard of what needs to be done. I think some people, and they actually come to me quite a bit, And they'll say, oh, you're in technology and there's all these services where I can get someone in the world to do my remote property management. That person doesn't understand fair housing. They don't understand US law. They don't understand the market rates there. So unless you give them a standard process, it's very difficult to give them that job. And what you find is that you're actually not performing as well as you could on your properties. So being a little bit more detailed, and then once you know it, outsourcing it makes a ton of sense.
What services, we haven't dove into your company yet. What services does your company provide, or what do you do with your company?
Yes, so Hemlane is a technology-enabled property management platform. So there's two components to it. The first is software. Traditional property management software was built as data entry, right? You have to enter everything. Mm-hmm. You want to do a screening report, information, you enter a social security number. Our philosophy was that should actually do it for you. And let me give you an example. A tenant lead comes in from Zumper or Trulia and says, I'm interested in your property. Well, Gino, you're on this call. You can't respond to them. But we've just picked up they're interested in a showing. So we'll respond and say, great, here's Gino's calendar of when he's available to show the property. And here are the qualifications. Can you please confirm you meet these objective qualifications? And then they can schedule the showing. They get reminders of when they need to be there, et cetera. And so what we're trying to do is build it in where that is helping you with a lot of the administrative stuff that investors just get bogged down in because a lot of them have other jobs. Mm-hmm. Or when they're just starting out, right? They have other jobs. Or when they grow their portfolio, they're saying, I'm getting exhausted of doing this at midnight. So that's the first part. And then the second component is a market is saying there are incredible property managers and agents out there. If you are an investor and you're investing in Denver, how do you get a property manager, someone to support you, right? Well, we already have a list of them and we have investors working with them. And we have investors' reviews on them. Mm-hmm. Why can't we just connect you with those licensed agents to be able to help you with your property management? And so it's there are two components there to be able to say, how do you make it much more effective and be able to streamline your management?
So I've actually spoke to the company that we use for our property management software about this before, and the area that I'm curious to find out from you is. An Angies List would be super helpful for the people, the ones that we use a lot, the painters, the flooring guys, lawn care and things. Do you guys do that?
No, we don't. We tap into third parties who do that. Mm-hmm. So there are companies out there like Angies List and Thumbtack that are doing that for you, Home Advisor, et cetera. So instead of us trying to do it ourselves, we'll tap into third parties who we trust to be able to do that. However, you do have a good point. Usually when one of those companies gets too big, like an Angies List size, when you look at the top person on there, they're going to charge you consumer rates, right? They're not going to charge you what, if you went to a full service property manager, they get discounts on everything, right? Because they're bringing business, they're guaranteeing payments. So they're getting discounts. And so they're getting handyman and contractors at a reduced rate, or you would hope so. And so what we've actually found in our network is just by virtue of being in it, we've found a lot of those service professionals, but then we find a lot of them kind of jump off Angies List or Thumbtack, but they stay on Hemlane and help with the property management for others. Just by virtue of it, but it's not in our business model to build that up. I believe that that's a company within itself. And if you try to do everything and build up a whole list of every single painter and every single contractor and every single licensed agent, it gets really difficult. So what we do is we believe our property managers and our agents who are local and talking to those people every day are going to be able to let us know who they are, who are the best handyman and stuff, without us trying to build it up. Whereas if we try to build it up and mass send it out there and say, this is the best contractor, that contractor is going to say, great, I'm going to increase my rates. And then suddenly you become another Angies List, which for something like property management, a lot of people are concerned with, because you're just getting consumer rates versus the property management rates. So that's why we really work with our network, but we don't kind of blast it out there like Home Advisor and Angie's List.
I'm interested to see if anyone does it, because there's a whole, like, you have your standard residential guys out there. There's a whole nother world that just focuses on multifamily and larger multifamily properties, whether it's, like in each town, whether it's 10 different painters or 5 or 10 different flooring companies, that their main focus is actually on multifamily, and they're not even operating, and they may be, slightly on the Angies List kind of thing. So I think, even for the guys listening out there, if you want a tech idea to run with, go for it, because we like I said, we've actually spoke to our provider about that, because it's something where we have a lot, we have 20 some, folks on our property management team, a lot of experience in the market, but still new vendors come in and come out, and are they vetted, and we'll say, well, who are you using? And it's almost like a word of mouth. We'll talk to different folks, and we always try to build that list up, because Gino always laughs at me, because I've always said painters, we're getting started were the bane of my existence, because there's a lot of drug use with these guys. And
Yep.
they flake out.
I feel exactly that. There is actually a company here in Silicon Valley that has been doing it for consumers, and now they have what they consider commercial, and you have to pay to be in it. We're actually in their program, so they're a third-party partner. These are not people they give to average consumers, because they know that it would inevitably be just another Angie's List. And they've just started to do that. I'm not sure if I'm even allowed to announce who they are and what they're doing with it. But that was huge to us, of saying, you work commercial, the best folks out there, and at prices where, it's a no-brainer and complete sense. And so we have started working with them to some extent in the regions they've launched that in. We've been working with them. And so I do think actually the industry in general needs more of that. And what I would say, and Jake, I'm really glad you brought that up, the person doing it has to think outside the box. So if someone does start that tech company, don't just create another Angie's List or another Home Advisor. Really come up with how you're going to work with just multifamily or larger players.
And the market's there for it. I mean,
Absolutely.
There's enough,
Yeah. Yes. The market's there. There's actually Keep in Seattle, and Latchel, I think, might be doing it as well. Those are two that do property maintenance for property managers. And so they're in that market as well. So two other good ones to check out.
Cool.
You guys are you're talking about disruptors in the market in multifamily and property management. Where do you see the next disruption in property management coming?
I think in property management, the next disruption that you'll see in it is going to be on the side of the day-to-day operations. I think with leasing, people are okay paying 1 month's rent for a turnover if it's, a single family home. And I think with leasing, you really do need someone there. With the day-to-day, I think a lot of real estate investors are questioning the percentage of monthly rent when they say, if I have a good property, I'm paying more. Like, say you have a Class A property, right? You're paying more per month, and most likely you have a more qualified tenant than someone with a Class D property, where they're getting still a percentage of monthly rent, but it's 1/5 of what the Class A property is getting, and it's 10 times more work. And so I think in that kind of percentage of monthly rent consistent amount, property managers themselves will have to get together and figure out, how do we change that, and how do we make it where incentives are aligned there. So if you do have a good property that has low maintenance and management, you'll still use them. Versus if you have a property that requires a lot more, how do you actually incentivize really good property managers to work there? Because property managers I talk to, they start out and they say, I'll work with anything. And then I talk to them 2 years later, 3 years later, when they built their business, and they're like, where's your property? What's the address? I'm not working in that area. And part of it is because the incentive's not there for them. They're getting less money for a property that they have a lot more work for. So I think property management in general is it's going to get disrupted there, and the managers are going to have to kind of bond together and figure out what that pricing is to make it where people are wanting to use management for even the day-to-day, not just the leasing.
Mm-hmm. Last question on the long answers. What is your best property management tip for the listeners?
Best property management tip. Let me think about that. Best property management tips. The reason I say that is like, I've got a lot of property management tips for you.
Give me a few.
What I would say with property management is that good relationships with your team are good, and being more transparent with them is better. What I have found is people get very emotional, and I see property management as black and white. And every single lawyer who I speak with who is a property manager will say the same thing. They say it's black and white in every single case. And so if you treat, your managers with respect and stuff like that, or your tenants with respect, and then you follow up on things and you're very professional of, this is scheduled at this time. My turnover on non-urgent requests is 48 hours. It's 2 hours if it's urgent. If you are very transparent with the tenants, you're going to get them to stay for longer. And you are not going to have to deal with a lot of those emotional roller coasters, because you said, you know what, when you move in, if you're late on rent, I'm charging you a late fee, and I'm not going to waive it. So I'm just telling you that up front. The more transparent you are, the less that emotion gets involved. And I think property management, to some extent, becomes too emotional, and that's where people get frustrated with it.
I think investors have to realize that, it's an investment for us, and we're looking at the NOI and we're looking at what the CapEx requirements are. People are living there. So put yourself in their shoes. You're renting a place. So of course it's going to be more emotional for them. So you have to realize that and think how they would feel. And higher emotions lead to lower intelligence. I keep saying it. You look around what's going on in the country. When you throw your emotions around, you don't use logic about solving a problem. And you think about it only from an emotional standpoint.
Yes.
You get what we have right now. You have problems all over the place. But think about it from their perspective. That's where their house is. That's where their pets are. That's where their kids are. That's where their memories are being formed. That's where their day-to-day is.
Here we go with the pets again.
The emotional support animals are there.
I just put the pets in because I'm looking at the dog park and running around and all. But really, you have to look at it from their perspective. How would you feel if you made a maintenance call and 2 days later the guy strolls in and the hot water heater has been leaking for 2 days? So I think it's important, and I think it's something that people gloss over. And customer service, as we talk. Jake, what's the motto, Jake? It's important.
The motto is Doggy Daycare from now on. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking other businesses. Okay. So now that I realize that we're that, emotionally, hung up on our animals, we're going to put in a doggy daycare. We're going to test that model and see if we can't get another spoke on the wheel. I
actually know someone who does that for multifamily. Her entire business, she's in Boston. She works out of the Harvard Innovation Lab, and her whole business is going to apartment complexes and helping them develop dog parks and dog services, such as like washing your dog and grooming it. I'm not kidding you. She really does that, and she does really well with it. So there you go, Jake.
Have her send me over an income statement on one of these things, and I'll check it out.
Exactly.
We can break this out.
Wow.
No, we've done the dog park thing, but we haven't gone beyond that. But listen, if we got 150 unit complex and 80 people have pets, there probably is another little ancillary business in there. So. Who's the target, customer for your services?
We work with typically investors with under 50 units, although we do have investors with over 250 units, especially because they grow their portfolios. But the reason for that is just the onboarding. There are no onboarding costs. You can get started. It's very easy. You don't need an on-site inspection. And then those connections, when you're a smaller operation, you don't have connections to the brokers and agents in your area. And so that's really where we help connect you. And then we have a lot of property managers and real estate agents who do property management who use Hemlane. And so it's all of those combined together to build a community. And the most important thing to us is a community for these smaller investors with, under 50 doors who are saying, wow, there's really nothing out there for me. I look at the technology companies, Yardi and Appfolio, and they won't even take me, right? They say no. but I'm looking for something very professional to streamline my process. And that's where we come in.
And it's accounting, maintenance. It's
yes,
full,
it does end to end of
full
everything. So it starts with the leasing and then goes all the way to the management. So it's end to end. And that way you have a peace of mind. Some people do try to integrate a lot of systems together, which is great, but you really have to be a little bit more tech savvy. You have to kind of build your own website and have a bunch of different logins. It's much easier for the tenant to know this is the place we go for everything, maintenance requests,
payments,
applications, everything. Yeah. Right.
Who's your biggest competitor? Who that's right now? Would you say?
I would say that our biggest competitor right now is one of these larger players in the industry that has essentially had a cash cow business. And what I'm thinking is someone like it would be like a Zillow or something like that that's figured out their revenue model that could potentially come into this industry and say, I have already all the consumers, I have contact information of every single landlord out there. And I'm also really, really innovative. I build the best technology. Of course, there are a lot of small players in the industry where we are, but I really see it as one of these larger ones who has a lot of capital, who could potentially compete against us or say, hey, we do the listing side really well, maybe we should go into the operations. And so I would see it as one of those technology companies.
Interesting. What's your best habit for success? Something you do on a daily or weekly basis?
Best thing for success personally is just working out every morning. I can't do it at night. I get too bogged down with work. So whether it's yoga or run on the beach or something just to clear my mind, that's the first thing. And then operationally within my company and within kind of being bogged down with a bunch of things, I would say calendars and making sure I have everything scheduled and priorities aligned is really very important. And sometimes I might have to push something out 2 months, but only focusing on the major things. I use Nosby, which is a free app, basically does my to-do list. We use Trello within our organization, another free app that you can use that you can kind of put together, here are my top priorities, here's where they are. Those types of things I find really helpful for success, and also just a peace of mind when there's so much going on.
What was the biggest mistake you made when starting Hemlane?
Biggest mistake was I thought technology actually could solve everything. There are a lot of these bratty Silicon Valley folks. I would say that I was to some extent one of them working at Apple. I also worked at Nest, the home technology company as well, where it was, hey, your device is going to solve everything. You don't really need anything else. Why do you have humans? Why do you have to get on the phone and talk? And actually, that when we actually started Hemlane, we said, you can call us. If you want to call us, please do. We'll walk you through anything. We'll get on a video call like this if you want. And our sales and account management team does that. And I found that to be really, really helpful because I think people forget that technology should help foster and facilitate relationships and a sense of community, but technology is not going to solve everything. And it's those personalities and connecting people that really help solve major problems.
It almost sounds like an anti-relationship, anti-human connection, mentality there. It's kind of sad in a way.
Yeah,
really.
and you see that in what I've realized actually is that the technology companies that make it realize that the technology is to help foster relationships, not to hinder them. And at the beginning though, I was just like that of like, why do people talk on the phone? Why do they send letters in the mail? And that has dramatically shifted and changed over time.
I'm all about efficiency. Efficiency is great, but let's still be alive and be humans as well.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah, and you can still pick up the phone and talk to someone. Sometimes you can get things done faster that way than emails, because emails, for example, I can't tell on the other line. Someone might just be a really direct person, but you might read that email and be like, oh, whoa, are they mad at me? And so sometimes you still do need those personal connections. And that's where I do think folks in real estate, know a lot better than anyone else. And that's why people always say, oh, real estate brokerages are going to get disrupted and this and that. And I think, no, there will be a different way to do things. But those brokerages and having those brokers out there and having those managers out there, you still need them. They're crucial to making sure you have success. And so Silicon Valley needs to grow up a little bit in that sense. I think it's gone too much off the deep end of saying, we're going to have robots do everything and technology do everything, and I'm never going to talk to someone type mentality. And so there's a little bit of a shift here that way, but hopefully it continues.
What about a book recommendation? It can be business, real estate, something that's impacted your life in a positive way.
I love to read. Actually, on that topic, Lexus and the Olive Tree is my favorite book. Eventually, just kind of high level, talks about McDonald's and capitalism, and every country that McDonald's has gone in, suddenly there hasn't been a war. And then there was the Bosnia War. There were some, essentially some outliers to that or exceptions. But what they were saying is that having businesses and international businesses is actually helping reduce wars, reduce conflict, etc. But the biggest thing you have to remember is the roots of that olive tree, and cultures are different and people are different, and understanding that someone else is not like you, and that's okay. And their traditions and cultures are different, and you should accept that. And as we look at even real estate and investing other places, you need to adapt to that. People in different areas are not going to have the same views as you, whether it's political, whether it is social, and you need to understand that and actually build that into your business.
That sounds kind of understanding. That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. What project are you excited about right now?
Project I'm excited about right now. Project at Hemlane that I'm super excited about is on our payment side. One of the things you'll notice with vendors, with service professionals, is sometimes you get someone involved who isn't day-to-day with your property, right? Someone to do mold remediation or something that you don't do every day. And so there's some new technology here in Silicon Valley that we're starting to implement today, where you can just pay anyone, and it doesn't matter what form of payment they take it from your account. Our accounting system logs it right away, and you can just send it out. It's not a snail mail check. I know they used to have like check processing systems where they'd send it, but it's immediate. It's straight to their email and phone. They can type in the bank account routing and account number and accept that money. It's all logged in your system as paid. Maintenance request is logged as complete. I think fintech, so financial technology, is something that needs to be better. There's too much fraud out there, too many, credit cards and stuff being stolen, and too much administrative stuff associated with how do I pay this person? How do I track it and log it so that I can check the performance of my maintenance? And so that's something that's really cool that one of our partners has just launched, and we're going to be part of that beta. So we're really excited about that.
Nice. So say I got a 50-unit portfolio and this sounds good to me. What should I do?
Yes. You can visit hemlane.com. So HEMLANE.com. You can also reach out to me. So that's Dana, DANA @hemlane.com. You can also reach out to us on our social channels too. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. And we love talking to folks and kind of even just doing a property management audit. What are you currently doing today? Here are some recommendations that we would have to improve your property management.
Gino, she's like you. You can get straight to the top. Just hands out the email to everybody. Not even afraid, all right? You want to be my customer? I want you to come in the door. Give me a call. I love that.
It's important to talk to your customers. There are customers still I speak with all the time who use Hemlane, because I think it's very important. If you're not talking to your customer, you actually, to some extent, lose sight of what's in the future. Those folks will tell me exactly what they think about Hemlane, and they're very transparent about it. And that's probably why we've been able to build such a great product, is because of that.
Awesome. Mr. G-Dad, you have a promotion today.
I'm going to get a little heavy with you.
You're going to tell me. You got something. You got some elite promotion here.
Not yet. Let me get a little heavy with you for about 30 seconds. You guys are talking.
Oh, shit. G-Dad's going deep. All right. Hold on, folks. Hold on.
This is about human interaction. We're talking about human interaction, right? Huge link between mental illness and human interaction. As we become less of a tribe, we have less human interaction. There's a lot more mental illness going on. You see people not staying in their own city, like me, for instance. I left my state of New York, come down here. You guys have to stay connected. Put the machines away. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Don't be afraid to make the connection. Don't be afraid to join Jake and Gino's community, and not just join a community and email and text. Pick up the phone, because be able to talk to somebody, be able to see the verbal interaction is so important in your day to day. Be able to contribute, to be able to grow is what makes people thrive. And I think what people are doing nowadays, they're living in an alternate reality. There's nothing wrong with technology. I think it's wonderful. I think if it can cut down and make you more productive and make you more efficient, that's wonderful. But at the end of the day, what did you accomplish? Did you talk to somebody and help somebody out, or you're on Instagram and looking at Pinterest and looking at some pictures? So just balance that out in life and make sure that you don't stray away and you become part of a tribe, because that's one of the most important things. That's what we're seeing. And I can see myself when I'm home all day and I'm not out and I'm not in the office. I'm like, wow, I really missed something today. I missed that connection. But when I do these podcasts, you can see the energy's here. You're more engaged. So just be aware. That's my only 30-second, I guess, roll with you. I don't know if you agree with me or disagree with me, but I just see that that's what's going on nowadays, you know?
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. And we see it in the areas we're in. Absolutely.
So Mr. Senziano wanted me to put out a promotion. The promotion, which leads into the actual joining a tribe, is we have the elite product. We have a educational platform on our website. It's called Real Our Profits Elite. If you type in the code ELITE when you buy to purchase the product, we'll give you 20% off. It's an awesome product because I think it's all about networking, right, Jake? It's all about getting out there. We have a private Facebook group. I give my email out to everybody. I help out all the students. We're still small enough where I talk to everybody every day. We have live weekly calls. So if you're interested in joining a multifamily community, just check us out. Go on jakeandgino.com, hit the course button. You'll see the courses. It's the Real Our Profits Elite program. Click on the coupon code is Elite and become a member. Love to see you on board.
And if you guys email the G-Dad, Gino at jakeandgino.com, a screen grab of your iTunes review, he's going to send you a free book. I'm cheap. I wouldn't do it. But Gino, my friend, he will send it. So.
And the wife is always saying, why are you giving everything away? Why are you giving everything away? But it's okay. You got to give.
I'm not the wife. He's talking about the real wife. He's not talking about. No, seriously, Dana, really enjoyed speaking with you. Best of luck with everything. It sounds like you guys are doing, something really great over there, and best of luck in the future.
Great, thanks so much, and I'm excited for your next Nashville event. So you got to send me more details on that.
Oh, definitely will.
You're gonna come? Are you coming?
Well, now I am. You guys got to send me the details.
I will.
All
definitely.
Right, Gino, you're gonna do it.
We're gonna have a great time. It's gonna be an awesome weekend. So looking forward to it. Dana, thanks for taking the time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
We trust that you enjoy the Wheelbarrow Profits podcast. Visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. See you next time when Jake and Gino share more of their investing secrets with you.